Cool, man. Take your time, John. Was just curious because I really enjoy your commentaries. That being said, I'd be fine to pay on Patreon to fund the game dev. Thank you very much, man. That's very kind of people to... Everybody who has spoken up about it, like several people, they've all been encouraging, saying, hey, I'd be happy if my Patreon subscription went to you making your game. But I'll show you my game now, and you can perhaps make up your mind on that if you're a Patreon supporter of mine. Let me set up my game. And I'll show you. I'll give you a little tour. Oh, hang on. My mouse is kind of fucked. Just bear with me here. Gotta launch Godot, and I gotta tweak a few things in the code. Because my times of day in the house that I built are tied... They are generated by functions in the code. And so if I want it to be a certain time of day, I gotta switch the function out. So the whole house has been built now. Every room has functioning lights and switches. Like you've seen this before, but now every room has something like this. There's audio is very faint. You are too loud. There's not really supposed to be much audio here, though. The only thing of substance here is the footsteps. I guess I can turn that up. We'll crank up the game audio. You hear all that? That must be better. Okay, so every room has a light and a corresponding switch, and that's all working. For the directional lighting for like the daytime, I turned off volumetric fog because it was giving me grief. When you go into corners of the house, the fog would start bleeding into the rooms from sources where it shouldn't be coming from. So instead, I took out the volumetric fog and I put in sort of like a post-processing glow. And then I enabled a lighting effect called SSIL, which like when light sort of hits certain surfaces, depending on the color of it and the temperature of the light being emitted, it will sort of warm up like the surface around it. So that's on. And, oh yeah, and I added you can run in the game, and the footsteps quicken. So there's actually two different sound arrays. There's one for the slow footsteps and one for the running footsteps. So I have an examination system. I have glyphs for, like, you know, when a block of text is ended, and then you hit E to advance, basically. E is sort of like my advance / next / go forward key in terms of, like, getting through text. So that door's locked. We did that. The lamps turn on and off. You can pick up items. Still, this is a whole realm I gotta work on, but a lot of the core function is there, so a lot of the heavy lifting's been done. Take the note, and then it's gone, but from then it hasn't actually gone into an array or anything, but I still gotta figure that out, but I know how to do that, so I just haven't gotten to it yet. Drawers with items in them, I've still gotta figure that out, but I'm pretty sure I can. The sounds have all been adjusted, because they all had varying bit rates, and so I gave them all a unified bit rate, or like a lo-fi sound, by exporting them all as 16,000, I think, is it kilohertz per second, or kilobits, MP3s at that low bit rate. So let's check out the basement first. So we can... And even though it's daytime, I'm deliberately, I'm like, how can I make daytime scary? And so I'm going for this like high contrast lighting sort of thing, where the light is sort of bleeding through these high windows, and then but there's parts of the house inside that are like really shadowy, and you have to use your flashlight even though it's daytime. So the flashlight is mapped to right mouse button, and there is a random timer that ticks down while the flashlight's on, and eventually the flashlight is going to start malfunctioning. So like it's now at a fraction of its energy, and it starts. There's a random number generator that every frame that the game is running, it sort of sets it at a new energy level. And so there's a dedicated key right now. It's Q, where you hit the key to knock the flashlight, and you have to hit it a random number of times between 1 and 7 to get it functioning again. So we had to hit it like 5 times that time, and then when it does it again, it'll be a new random number. So let's go into the basement. So there's a fade transition going from all the rooms. We got a light at the top of the stairwell here. And now we can go down here. I don't have different footsteps for different surfaces yet. That's something I'm going to add in later. But we have more of that sort of glowy directional light coming from the windows. There's a light we can turn on and off down here. So if we turn that on, this switch controls 2 different lights at the same time. So I had to make a unique script just for this light switch. But yeah, that gives turns on some interior lighting for the basement. And then I have, I used to have snagging, like when the player capsule mesh would, if you were like to walk at the corner of certain objects, like the player would sometimes get stuck. But I switched physics engines to something called the Jolt physics engine in Godot. Because Godot has a number of built-in physics engines you can switch between. And I switched to Jolt, and then that got rid of the snagging issues. So I spent a lot of time just like running into corners and shit, and making sure there's just like, because I want to release this with like as little jank as possible. I don't want any sort of little fucky bullshit where the player gets stuck or something. So this is supposed to be a furnace room. I haven't furnished any of the rooms, by the way, but all the basic geometry is built. So we can go into the furnace room here. So I've still got to put shit in all the rooms. And by the way, the entire house is always loaded into the same one instance. So if I like turn off this light in here, for instance, and I go out, and I go back in, the state of this room is preserved the entire time, right? So it remembers, it doesn't reset the state of the switches and stuff like that. So everything gets held in memory. Because there's not actually any new instances being loaded. All the interaction with doorknobs is doing is basically changing your coordinates from one side of a door to the other side of a door. So let's go upstairs. You can see like different surfaces have different levels of like roughness, which determines how reflective something is. So if I point the flashlight right at this, you'll see that it's sort of like the light becomes very concentrated when it's like reflected, but like less so on the cement flooring. You can see it like glowing off the steps too from certain angles. So we'll go back up here. And then we'll go into the kitchen. So this is my kitchen. Again, no furniture, but I'm gonna work on that. Windows have been cut into every floor. That took some doing too, because there's a bunch of issues with like, sometimes I would cut a hole in a wall and then the texture on the whole wall would be fucked. And I'd have to redo the whole thing. Or sometimes I'd realize that because every room there's like an inner wall and an outer wall geometric shape. So I had to make sure like the holes were aligned across both shapes when I'm doing the Boolean cutting. And then there's on every window cutout there's a pane of glass. That it's transparent, obviously, and the light will sort of refract off of it as well, to a degree. And then we have like linoleum flooring, which is a bit reflective. We have a kitchen light here. We can turn that on and off. Another same object as in the foyer, but they're all, even though I'm copying pasting the desk and the lamp, like they operate independently. So if both lamps are on and I turn this off, for instance, the other lamp will still be on. So you can interact with each pasted object individually. And yeah, some more lighting crap, and then we have a living room light switch, and this is going to be the living room where there's like a couch and an armchair and a TV and shit, and then I've got to make a TV that does some scary shit. Certain images get displayed and shit. And I'm going for this like sort of, I call it a low resolution, high fidelity look, where like lighting effects are all done in a sort of modern way, but it's all presented with like a 4:3 PlayStation 1 style resolution, where it all gets rendered at 320 by 240. And then this door takes us back to the foyer. And so we're back here. So and I took my time like planning the whole layout of this room, this house out. Like the interior design is weird purposefully, because there's a story reason that it looks so odd and unwelcoming, and the paint job is the way that it looks. But I don't want to say anything about that at this point. So we have an upstairs. We have a switch for the stairs too. We can turn that off and on. And we can go upstairs. And I used a new method for getting all the collision on all the walls. So now I used to do the collision boxes by hand, and then it was messy because sometimes the player capsule would get snagged where like the collision boxes weren't matching up perfectly. But now I have a new method of doing that, where all the collision meshes on every geometric shape in the house are like mathematically precisely lined up, like to the decimal point. So like there's no snagging on anything. And it's pretty easy to do too, which is cool. And there's a light here for the top floor. And this is going to be a bedroom. Nothing in here yet, but I'm going to put shit in it. And light switch for this room too. And then we go around this corner. And there's another light switch here for this hallway light. And then this is supposed to be a bathroom. So you can see it has like the reflective linoleum floor. And I got to put like a bath and a sink in here and shit like that. Oh, and a mirror. But I haven't decided if I want to do like reflections, or I might just do some bullshit thing where the mirror's broken or something and it doesn't cast. It doesn't need I think it's called a reflection probe or something in Godot. That's one method of generating reflections. There's a bathroom light. And then, see, this took a lot of tweaking to get the hall, like certain parts of the house to look this way, where, you know, it's like, it's supposed to be basically noon or, you know, in the early afternoon. But then, like, you look down the hallway and there's sort of this high contrast where, like, there's parts of the house that still look shadowy and creepy. So, this is another bedroom. And there's another light here that controls the light at the very end of the hallway. The hallway lights will be more, the effect of them will be more noticeable when the time of day is changed, especially when it's night. And then here's another bedroom in here. And then there's a light switch in here. It turns that on and off. And then the last room I want to show you is the attic. So obviously, when the game is finished and it starts, like, a bunch of these doors are going to be locked. But right now, you have all the items that you need to unlock all the doors. And right now, there's a hatch here in the ceiling for an attic. And whether you can open the attic or not is tied to a Boolean condition of whether or not you have a certain item called a hatch hook. And if you have it, then this is interactable and you can open this up. So if I click the attic door here, as you can see, like, there's an interaction reticule that's always at 0.2 alpha level, like transparent. But then when you hover over something that you can interact with, it glows at an alpha value of 1. So I think that's a very simple interaction system that, I don't think it needs to be any more complicated than that. I'm going for like a minimal amount of HUD elements. I only introduce things if I absolutely need them. So here we go. We'll go up into the attic, and there's a bunch of sound design here. So now we're in the attic, and there's different texturing up here. And if we look down, we can see that the hatch is now open, and there's a ladder there now. And if we click, we can go back down. And now we only hear the steps going down the ladder because the hatch is already opened. And if we look back up, well, if we look there, now you see that the ladder is there. And you can collide with it too. There's like a collision there. You can't interact with the ladder, but you interact with the hatch itself, or the opening rather. That hatch door is open now, by the way. So we can go back up into the ladder. Into the attic, I mean. And this is the attic, and there's like it's like a wood texture. It's like plywood and then hardwood floors. Again, I gotta have different footsteps for different surfaces. That's something I haven't added yet. It's deliberately supposed to look really foggy outside because I want it to sort of have this claustrophobic feel to it, where it feels like there's nothing else outside. And then you use your flashlight and you can look around. And then that's the other end. And there's like beveled, you can't really see it, but there's like beveled walls on the sides. It's not just like a square shaped room. The walls sort of go up, like they go from there to, and it gets narrower at the ceiling, if you know what I mean. And that's the house, man. So, I'll show you different times of day now, quickly. So let me switch to webcam mode. Let me close that. And I gotta switch the function out so it's a different time of day. So let's do dusk. I'll show you that quickly. And then let's go back to this mode. So I maybe made this a bit too orange. I don't know. I might tweak that. But you can see the color value has changed. The degree to which it sort of looks glowy is like thickened. And also the direction of the light has changed, and now it's being cast higher up along the wall because the sun is supposed to be getting closer to the horizon, right? So if we go to other parts of the house, you can see like now the sun is going down. And I wanted this sort of like eerie sort of orange glow in the darkness kind of look to it, you know? And then upstairs. I wanted it to be like I may have gone overboard with the orange, but I wanted it to be like a really sort of dense dusk look, you know? And so that's that. And then Dawn is pretty much that, but it's blue. And I'll show you the night thing is the last thing. Let's switch to this now. So you can see the rain outside. There's particle boxes on all the sides of the house that stretch across all the different floors, and there's thunder that's tied to a random timer. And so there's a randomized delay between thunder cracks, and there's a random amount of time. There's a random amount of time that the thunder lasts. And during the time that the thunder is on, the energy level of the emitted light and the background, the sky, sort of is set to a random value between whatever the maximum ranges of it are, if that makes sense. And there's going to be a part of the game where none of the lights work. So if we can turn off the lights, and you can get an idea of what this is going to look like just wandering around in the dark. So there's going to be a part of the game where it's just like this, basically. And then we can go upstairs and have a look. Turn all the lights off. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. Let's go back to webcam mode. And that's my game so far. I know it may not seem like a lot, but I built all of that by scratch, and I programmed it all myself. I mean, I followed tutorials, obviously, but I wrote every line of code myself, and I can tell you what every line does. And I modeled everything myself in Blender. There's no prefabs. Any furniture, all the walls, the stairs. I used an algorithm for the stairs so I could get evenly proportioned steps. But yeah, but I did it all myself. And you know, like I said, I know to some people it probably doesn't look like a lot, but I've been busting my ass on this. So so, you know, it is what it is. So let me go back to chat. Let me just reconfigure my, I'll do that later. Let me catch up on chat. Where was I? Okay, I laughed aloud at I start firmly between 4 and 8 p.m. That was an actual lol in real life. I've made that joke before, but I think it's funny. I'm glad that your inguinal hernia symptoms aren't as bad as they were before, John. The pain has subsided a little bit. I'm doing better. Hopefully I'll get it fixed permanently with some surgery. But, I mean, it's still kind of... My balls still kind of hurt, unfortunately. Job, I'm diligently watching from the beginning of the stream at 2 times speed so I don't miss a moment of your succulent Jontent heart. I'm glad to hear your balls might be on the upswing. Nice. Thank you. Roxas C for $50. Holy shit, dude. This fund is for John's sexy, amazing game. Seeing you create an amazing game makes everyone happy. Can't wait to play it one day. I know it's going to be amazing. Thank you very much, man. That's very kind of you to say, and that's incredibly generous of you. I know, again, it doesn't seem like a lot, but I mean, I'm actually getting a lot of heavy lifting out of the way with just the getting the whole world built, and then some core functions like, walking and footsteps. Once all that's out of the way, I can start focusing on the details and putting in NPCs and dialogue and actually populating it with, story and a sense of momentum and things changing from room to room as you're making progress. And it's not going to be a big game, but when in the finished product, it's going to feel like the rooms are going to feel populated, and it's just going to feel like there's a story happening, and you're going to be reading notes and talking to people sometimes. And there's going to be like a flow to it where it's just like this happens, then this happens, then this happens, Thank you very much, Roxas C, for that very generous super chat. I really appreciate it. John, I would be happy to fund your game on Patreon, except I'm a cheap Scottish bastard that's never sent a cent to a YouTuber. That's okay. I appreciate your viewership. Do you have a pay respects button? No game can be complete without it. Maybe I should. That should be a function. This is actually sick. Thank you. I love the look of your game. It kind of reminds me of a Puppet Combo game. Puppet Combo. I'm not sure I'm familiar. Job, it looks like you forgot to put anti-aliasing in your game. It looks very jaggy. That's the point. I want it to look like an old PS1 game. Except that it's like the lighting is actually cool. I want it to look like an old game. In certain ways. Because I thought about making like a full on, like taking into account the actual limitations of the PS1 and the fact that it couldn't do certain lighting things or in dynamic lighting at all. Vertex like dithering to make and to make textures skew at the edges of the camera, and like to have textures not tracking well depending on like what angle you're looking at it, and like how you're moving past certain objects and textures and stuff. Like I could have made it look more fucked up to sort of truly emulate what the PS1 was capable of, but I didn't really want to go that far with it. I just wanted it to look like a low resolution game, but under the surface there's actually like there's like modern lighting tech and stuff like that. Slow down there, Kojima. Listen, I know it's my first game, okay? Well, I mean, my first serious game. I've made Flash games, but those are barely games. I know this is barely a game yet either, but I've got it all on paper, so, I have a vision for it. I know what I want to make. I know how it ends. I know all of that. I know how my main menu is going to look like. I know all the screens. I just got to build them. A unique script just for a light switch? Why not make an array for all light sources tied to a light switch? Iterate the array and toggle them. That way you don't need to make different scripts. Well, it was only just for the one light switch, and I never had to do it again because there's not another place in the house where there's a switch that controls more than one light. So I think I get what you're saying, and that probably is the smarter way to do it. But I don't know, what I did worked for me. And, it wasn't even that hard to make a unique script for it. It's just a few extra lines that factors in that there's two nodes that you can plug into the switch. Why not just make an array for all light sources tied to a light switch? Iterate the array and toggle them. Iterate the array. Okay, yeah. So depending on which switch, it it's tied to a different number in the array. No, I get what you're saying. I mean, there's there's different ways to do everything, right? But you know, the way I have it works, and it's a bit of extra code relative to the other switches, but it's really not that much. It just took me like a few extra minutes. Mickey's Bickies for 2 Australian dollary-do says, "Oh boy, another See Me After Class podcast with Job." Well, I just thought I'd show you if people wanted to see my game, and we'll get to Zelda. I'll catch up on chat one more time, and then we'll do that. Thank you very much, Mickey's Bickies, for the super chat. Mr. Great Productions for $2 says, "Nice." Thank you very much. Really appreciate that. The kitchen, or the kitchen, if you will. A place you can make mouth-watering meals to replenish your health. That's what I should have done. John's level reminds me a lot of the CIA level of the original Splinter Cell game. I think I know what you're talking about, yeah. When can we wish list the game on Steam? I don't know, because I don't know how many hurdles I'm gonna hit. I've attempted modeling and rigging and animation, and I did the modeling part, so I know how to do it, and I know how to rig. Well, I know how to build the armature like a skeleton, but I had problems adhering the skeleton to all the vertexes in the mesh properly, and so I got to figure out what I was doing wrong last time. But I am confident that I can figure it out, and that's like the one big thing that's like worrying me, I think I'll be able to figure it out. And once I do, I can't see really running into a problem with anything else. Like, I feel confident when it comes to every other thing. If I can get the skeleton properly adhered to the mesh, and I can move the skeleton around and move the arms and legs around, and there's no issues with certain vertices being tied to other limbs and shit, then I'll feel pretty confident. If two Lil Toys figures aren't hidden somewhere in the house, I'm gonna give a bad review. I am thinking about that, yeah. I want to put a secret room in it somewhere that may only be accessible in a second run of the game, because I don't want it to be accessible in the first playthrough, because it's supposed to be a horror game. But I may add like a bonus, not New Game Plus, but like if you play it a second time, there's like a key that wasn't there before, and you're able to find a secret room if you look hard enough. I want to put something like that in it. John, when will you sell as early access? I don't even want to think about that whole aspect yet. I just want to get the game fucking made and playable, and then once I get to the distribution phase and how to get it on Steam and generate keys for people, and that's a whole other phase that I'll get to when I get to. I don't even want to think about that right now, because I've got enough on my mind just programming the fucking thing. I don't like the way it looks. Well, it's supposed to be low fidelity, but you know, I don't expect everyone to be on board. Can't see anything too dark. Well, the lighting can be adjusted, but I mean, you are intended to use the flashlight during the day as well. You know, because it is supposed to look shadowy and creepy during the day as well. The ladder appeared out of nowhere. It's like magic. Well, the idea is because the fade to black is a transition between all doors, right? And so the idea is you access the hatch, and you have the sound design of the ladder sliding down. And then once you've opened it, it's open on both ends, looking up and looking down at it from the attic. And then the ladder is there. So the implication is that it slides down, and then it's just there permanently. I once had a fully disabled neighbor, couldn't even talk. His caretaker translated for him. He made a whole Steam game I wish I remember the name of, with an antenna strapped to his head to type. Really? Wow, that's awesome. Like a sort of Neuralink thing? Really bad graphics? Is this all it is? Can't tell if you're trolling. Either that or you are actually underwhelmed, and I get it. Not everyone's gonna like it. Um, where was I? The house can use a few more explosions. That's a good idea. The lighting color is pleasant with the vibrant color. Yeah, the interior like artificial lighting is supposed to look like cold. Not cold, but like eerily pure white. There's supposed to be like no warmth to the place except from the flashlight that you have. And also the daylight coming in when it's dusk. There better be massive splotches of yellow paint job. You need to help the game urinalists when they play your game. Fair enough. I need to have a corpse with like an empty yellow paint bucket. So you know, like, there's a guy there painting stuff yellow. Like they actually did that in Assassin's Creed Shadows. That was sick. Love the retro audio too. Yeah, I downgraded all the audio so it all sounds like it's sort of relatively uniform in its bitrate. My dog did not like that thunder lull. Oops. Okay, that you're doing more than a single if statement is more than I can do, so well done. Well, a ton of it is really if statements. Because that's all you really need to do. Like, I think much of the time with video games, I mean, in programming, there's loops. There's while loops, there's for loops. While loops is like execute this code while some condition is true or false. And then a for loop is like for every value of whatever between like a certain cap on a range. Like for everything in an array of X size, execute this code. But you don't really need while loops, I find, in game design, because if you just put the code that you want executed in, that would typically be executed within a loop, if you just put that in a process function, that code gets executed every frame of the game. So you can put all your while stuff in that, and you don't even need to use while loops. So really, the only condition statements I'm using is if for the most part. I don't think I have a single while loop anywhere. I don't think I have a for loop anywhere either. A lot of it is if statements, if not all of it. But there are loops, but it's just it's in what's called a process function. Because like every piece of code, like there needs to be something that sort of initiates the code and gets it running, right? So that can either be every frame, or when a button is pressed, or when you collide with something. It's like a trigger, right? A trigger and an action. And yeah, so pretty much everything can be handled with like if statements, I find so far. I mean, obviously, for more complicated games, I'm sure there's plenty of loops. It's good progress so far. Thank you. Has anyone asked about your watch yet? If not, tell me about it. It's a good watch that I got for my birthday one year, and I just think I suit it. Vertex lighting can be fun. You can play with some fun colors and place them exactly where you want. Yeah, I think I know what you're talking about. Job, your game needs to struggle to run on high-end PC with horrible optimization, otherwise it's not a real video game. Well, maybe I should make it in Unreal Engine 5, and then I can have all that bullshit. John, I think I said this before, but I really hope I'm not coming off as a smartass or demanding when I give suggestions. No, not at all, dude. I think I find your input really interesting. I hadn't considered just putting all the light switches on a single array and then just modifying each switch to control a certain light within that one array. I have a slightly different method, but you know what I do works, and I think they're both. I don't think either of them require a lot of code, so I think what I have is fine. But I like your idea. I think the way I do it, because like I do what's called like exporting. You can export a certain variable, and a variable can be like a node or something physical in the game. And so, like for the light switches, I export a node variable, and then in the inspector panel for the object, it'll say, "Here's that thing you exported. You can set it to whatever you want in the instance." And then you literally just drag and drop the lights into it, right? Like the particular light nodes, you just click and drag it, and it's literally like plugging in things like on a switchboard. And so like I like the thing that I have with the lights. I think it's really easy to use and everything, so I don't really feel the need to change it. But I do appreciate your input. Thank you. I really admire your dedication to figuring things out and making something regardless of how alien it might be to you. There's a ton of people that would give up because it's too complicated. Oh, well, I've given up before. I mean, because I'm very impatient with like well, I still am very impatient with like learning new software. I just have this idea in my head of shit I want to make, and I get very frustrated when I fire up a new piece of software and I'm just like, where is that anything? How do I do anything? How the fuck am I supposed to type the syntax exactly in the code to get it the way I want? And in my early attempts of game design, everything was just not working, and I was just like, this is so fucking frustrating. So I had to just squash my impatience, and just take the time to fuck around with the software and learn it and look at hours and hours and hours of tutorials, and then starting to use it myself and fucking up but slowly getting the hang of it. And it's sort of like this it's on a like a graph on a curve on a curve on a graph. It's sort of like this, right? Where it's like nothing's working, everything's fucking up, you're not getting the hang of it, but then the more time you spend, it's just like, oh fuck, I'm getting a handle on this now. And then your productivity just skyrockets towards the end because you finally reach a point where it's just like, oh yeah, that's how that works. And then you start figuring out a bunch of other shit ancillary to that, where it's just like, oh, and that's how that works. Oh, and right, I get this now. And you just have to be willing to pour the time into it, and it's a lot of time. And now I've finally reached that point where I'm starting to get a handle. In a very novice way, I'm starting to get a handle on a lot of different aspects of game design. Needs more microtransactions. Yeah, I was thinking of that. New Game Plus, you get to play as Solid Graham, a shirtless variant, and he combats the spookies by smashing his toys together and making explosion noises. Nice. So when you release it, are you going to add a seasonal content and a battle pass? Obviously. And I'm going to release it early access, and it's never going to leave early access. It's going to be permanently in early access. So that means I never have to fix it. That's how it works, right? You just put out a game in early access and you don't fucking do anything. And you can release it and it's a piece of shit, and if anyone complains, and you can just be like, well, it's an early access game, dude. And it's never not early access. Instead of a fade to black when moving between places, why not do a star wipe? Star wipes are the best job. Brilliant. Why didn't I think of that? John, do you use data layers for each room to manage how many... Whoop, ran out of memory for some fucking reason. 64 gigs of installed memory and Brave runs out of memory. John, do you use data layers for each room to manage how many objects are loaded into the game space? I don't even know exactly what that means. I have an idea of what it might mean, but I'm probably wrong. I haven't gotten to that point where I'm worried about that yet, but I might run into that at some point where I might decide to use data layers, whatever that means exactly. So I don't know how to answer your question at this point. Do you want to keep the transitions between rooms to be fade to black with sound effects, or do you want to do the Resident Evil thing and show a door opening or something? I don't know about having the door animations was the initial idea, but I kind of like the brevity of just having the fades to and from black, and then that's it. And it just gives this snappiness of traveling from room to room. And I think the fades to and from black might be enough to like buffer one area from another. And if I do decide to put the door animations in, I might make them snappier than you would find in Resident Evil. You know, because in Resident Evil, it takes its time. The camera approaches the door, slowly opens, and then you go in. Like, my animations might be snappier than that, where the camera's moving right away and the door is opening right away, pretty much. Like, just to speed it up a bit. But I might not even put them in at all. I kind of like the way it is, actually. I may change my mind. Will you be doing an R being the Chief episode where they play your game to promote it? That's an idea. I may do that. John, you're back. I missed you. Thank you very much. I'm back. I can't say with certainty, but I suspect that "is this it" comment is just in reference to it being 3 rooms so far. They are hoping this is a baseline you can copy into larger levels. Well, and there's not going to be like another house. I mean, a lot of the game is going to be in this house, and you're going to have to go from room to room and unlock different rooms and pick up items and search things and find keys and solve little puzzles and stuff like that. But there are going to be areas beyond the house. There's sort of an end game segment that I don't want to get into because I feel it's like spoilers. I want to save some surprises for the final game. But there's going to be like a radically different area beyond the house. But I just don't want to say anything about it yet. Wait, John. So essentially what you're saying is you tell the game to play the game until if the user changes the thing, and then the game changes to the next if. Well, it's... I get with some things, it's kind of like that. Like, if you're interacting with an object, for instance, and there's multiple outcomes depending on what you have in your inventory or what state you're in or something like that. Like, if you click on something to interact with it, you might have an if structure where it's like, if this is true, do this. Or else, if this is true, do this. And you might embed all of that within a broad if statement that's like, if your ability to interact is true or false, then execute all this code. And just every line is just executed in the order that you type it in, right? So you have to be very careful about the order, though, because that matters. Well, like, it doesn't always matter, but I find it's often pretty important making sure lines of code are executed in the right order. You can't just, paste everything that you want to happen in an if statement in any order and expect to get the outcome that you want. We need microtransactions for lamp skins. That's a good idea. That's a thought. Make lamp skins for the Steam marketplace and make bank on all of us selling and buying them from each other. So no Majora's Mask, we'll do it. I'm just catching up on chat. So far, I can only use Scratch and its various mods. I cannot figure out any other game engine. I haven't heard of Scratch. Would you stream Twilight Princess at some point? Sure, maybe. It's not my favorite. I do like it, but it's not high priority for me. But yeah, sure. John, think of data layers as a collection of objects that act kind of like a modular level that can be loaded in and out to add and remove things from the main level. Oh, okay, yeah, I know what you're saying. I don't think I've employed data layers, but that could be something that I eventually put in. Like, for instance, if the player accesses the area beyond the house that I was talking about, I may want to put all the house shit on a data layer that I then subtract from the entire world instance, you know? Just so then... Or like, any place that I know the player is not going to access again, that all gets put on an individual data layer, and that data layer then gets deloaded. So... yeah, I'll probably end up doing something like that.